In the heart of North America lie the Great Lakes. Vast bodies of water where countless ships have found a watery grave. On this episode of Never Stop Learning, we dive into the chilling world of the Great Lakes' most haunted vessels. Join us as we uncover the 5 ghost ships said to haunt these waters, each one with a chilling story that refuses to be forgotten. Number 5. The legend of the SS Baronbur has cast a long shadow over the Great Lakes for over a century. The Baronbur was built in 1893 in Middleborough, England. Measuring in at 245 feet in length, she was designed to transport coal and grain across the Great Lakes, and at the time of her launch, she was considered cutting-edge technology. On November 21st, 1902, the Baronbur set off from Thunder Bay, Ontario on what would have been a routine voyage to Georgian Bay. Laden with a cargo of wheat, the ship faced rough conditions. After a slight grounding that caused no visible damage, the ship set out a day later than planned. The last confirmed sighting of the Baronbur came from the crew of the SS Algonquin, who reported seeing her cutting through rough waters. After that, the Baronbur simply disappeared. A massive search ensued, but nothing was found beyond a few scattered pieces of wreckage and a lifeboat. The exact cause of her disappearance remains unknown. After Baronbur vanished, eerie stories began to circulate. Sailors on Lake Superior reported seeing the shadowy outline of a ghostly vessel, usually during storms or heavy mist. Often spotted in the distance, the Baronbur would emerge from the fog and then simply vanish as quickly as she had appeared. This has earned the Baronbur the nickname, the Flying Dutchman of the Great Lakes. She will forever sail the waters of Lake Superior, condemned to repeat her final, doomed voyage. Sailors who encounter her ghostly form often consider it an omen of disaster. If the Baronbur appears, trouble is not far behind. Number 4. The Eerie Board of Trade was a wooden-hulled schooner built in 1862 in Cleveland, Ohio. At 136 feet in length, she was designed to transport heavy cargo such as grain and lumber across the Great Lakes. But the ship's history took a dark turn in 1883 when the Eerie Board of Trade was anchored in Saginaw Bay due to a calm spell that left the winds dead. While the ship waited, the captain set his crew to work repairing and cleaning the vessel. As part of this maintenance, he ordered a young crewman to climb the top masts using the boatswain chair, despite the fact that the rope holding the chair had worn dangerously thin. Tragically, the rope snapped, sending the crewman plummeting to the deck. He survived just long enough to curse the captain, uttering final words of damnation that would seal the fate of the Eerie Board of Trade. The ship, haunted by this death, made its next run loading coal and heading back out onto Lake Huron. But she and her crew were never to see their destination. In the aftermath of her disappearance, sailors on Lake Huron began to tell tales of a ghostly schooner appearing in the distance during storms or heavy fog. Described as a 3-masted vessel with tattered sails, the ship was said to drift aimlessly, her sails catching winds that didn't seem to exist. Those who saw her would often hear faint disembodied voices, including cries of distress and the eerie wail of lost souls. One of the most chilling sightings occurred during a violent storm in the early 19th century, when the crew of a freighter spotted a schooner ahead of them, its silhouette dark and looming. As they steered to avoid a collision, the schooner simply vanished into the mist. The story of the Eerie Board of Trade has become a popular legend, with many believing that the crewman's curse doomed the ship to sail forever, a spectral reminder of the dangers of the Great Lakes. Number 3. The WH Griswold was a 300-foot steel-hulled steamship built in 1890 in Cleveland, Ohio. At the time of her launch, she was one of the largest vessels operating on the Great Lakes, designed to haul massive loads of coal and grain. On October 28, 1892, the Griswold embarked on a voyage from Buffalo, New York to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, loaded with coal. As she entered Lake Michigan, a powerful autumn storm engulfed the ship. Despite the storm's ferocity, Captain Lloyd Weeks and his 22-man crew pressed on, trusting in the ship's steel hull and advanced design. The storm raged through the night, and by morning, the Griswold had vanished. Search efforts revealed only a lifeboat and part of the ship's cabin. In the years that followed, sightings of a ghostly freighter began to surface. Sailors navigating Lake Michigan during storms would report seeing a large, weathered freighter emerge from the fog, often in the same area where the Griswold was lost. The ghostly ship would seem to appear out of nowhere, only to disappear just as suddenly. Witnesses have described the ship as battered and worn, her decks glowing with strange lights as if the crew were still aboard, silently navigating the waters. Some mariners believe that the ghost ship is a harbinger of disaster, and encountering her is a sign of impending doom. To this day, the WH Griswold remains the largest undiscovered shipwreck in Lake Michigan, and her story lives on as one of the Great Lakes' most haunted. If you've enjoyed this episode so far, please give it a like and subscribe to check out all of our other spooky tales, as well as maritime disasters. Number 2. The USS Hamilton and Scourge were once merchant schooners, later converted into gunboats for the United States during the War of 1812. The Hamilton, originally named the Diana, was built in 1809 and stretched about 112 feet in length. She was retrofitted with 32-pound cannons to serve in the war effort. The Scourge, built in 1811 and originally called the Lord Nelson, was slightly larger and equipped with similar artillery. On August 8, 1813, the two ships were part of an American squadron patrolling Lake Ontario when a sudden storm struck. The heavy artillery made the ships top-heavy, and they quickly capsized in the violent winds. Within minutes, both vessels sank to the lakebed, taking over 60 crew members with them, leaving only 16 survivors. Over the years, sailors in Lake Ontario have reported strange sightings of two old schooners sailing side by side in the distance. These phantom vessels are often spotted during storms, eerily mirroring the conditions of the day they sank. Witnesses have also claimed to hear the distant sound of cannons and the ghostly cries of sailors as though their ships were still engaged in their final battle against the storm. One particularly famous sighting occurred in 1942. The crewmen aboard the Cayuga claimed to have seen the ghost ships, and an older steward warned them that it was a bad omen. The steward was found dead the next morning. The ghost ships of the Hamilton and Scourge continue to fuel legends of phantoms on Lake Ontario, forever trapped in their tragic final moments. Number 1. The SS Edmund Fitzgerald is perhaps the most famous shipwreck on the Great Lakes, and certainly the most iconic ghost ship. Built in 1958, the Edmund Fitzgerald was a marvel of modern engineering, measuring 729 feet in length and 75 feet wide, making her the largest freighter on the Great Lakes at the time. For nearly 2 decades, she transported iron ore from the mines of Minnesota to the steel mills throughout the Midwest, navigating the often treacherous waters of Lake Superior. On November 9, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald departed Superior, Wisconsin, with a full load of taconite pellets, bound for Detroit, Michigan. She sailed into what would become one of the most devastating storms in the Great Lakes history, with winds exceeding 60 miles per hour and waves reaching heights of 35 feet. The storm pounded the ship relentlessly. The last known communication from the Edmund Fitzgerald came at approximately 7:10 on November 10, when Captain McSorley reported to the Anderson, "We are holding our own." Moments later, the ship vanished from radar. Despite immediate search efforts, no trace of the ship or her 29 crew members were found. Days later, wreckage and debris washed ashore, confirming the ship's fate. The cause of the Edmund Fitzgerald sinking remains a topic of debate, with theories ranging from structural failure to rogue waves. In the years since her sinking, the Edmund Fitzgerald has become a symbol of the dangers of sailing the Great Lakes. But more than just a tragic shipwreck, the Mighty Fitz has also become a ghost ship, with numerous reports of eerie sightings and strange occurrences linked to her final voyage. Many sailors have claimed to see a massive freighter, its lights flickering in the distance, only for the ship to disappear moments later. Others have reported hearing mysterious radio transmissions resembling the Fitzgerald's final distress call, replaying the haunting last words of Captain McSorley. These 5 ghost ships, each with its own tragic fate, serve as a reminder of the power and the mystery of the Great Lakes. From the chilling sight of the Baronbur cutting through the fog of Lake Superior, to the eerie cannon fire heard from the lost warships on Lake Ontario, the waters of the Great Lakes are filled with tales of the supernatural. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Never Stop Learning. If these tales of haunted ships and maritime disasters intrigued you, please like and subscribe for more spooky stories and historical deep dives. We hope to see you next week for another spine-chilling installment of Shocktoberfest. Until next time.